Lunch break.
Welcome to lunch break.
Glad.
Everybody grab your drink, grab your snack, grab your coffee, energy drink, whatever you like to do for lunch.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said energy drink.
Yes.
You scared me there for a moment. I haven't been here.
Well, this is a great day.
Big
so
day.
excited.
Big day.
Josh Vietti, Pastor Ron, Pastor Josh should say that.
Yeah.
We're glad they're here. We're glad you guys have chosen to watch us.
Tuned in. You guys done a great job of sharing and liking already. Continue to like the Facebook page.
Yeah.
And follow us so you can stay in tune with everything
Last
going on.
week, Justin said we wanted to hit the 500 mark, and you guys did
and
that.
You guys did it instantly.
We're almost at 600. So share us, like us.
Yes.
We just want to get the just to get the web show out there and just get the information out there. We want to thank Encourage Media Productions because that's who we are. We're part of that. Want to thank. We actually have our creative editor here today, Vince Sierra.
Yes,
Vince joined us today.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
And if you guys didn't know, Vince and Josh are who started.
Yes, they are. There's a history there.
Yes. So this is a throwback.
We have our executive producer, Seth Parker, and then Mike Harvey, and then our creative consultants, Tessa and Taylor, Touchstone. So got to thank the crew because they're the ones that make this happen.
Yes.
So, Pastor, we're excited to have you today, and Justin. Just a great show.
Yeah.
So our question from last week, we had Paul Benton with us, and the question from last week, Pastor and Josh, came on the fact that not Justin, but Paul said after he got saved, it took him about 10 years to kind of hit a pace of serving God. So the question from our audience last week was, how soon will God start using me after I get saved?
I think the next day.
I do too, Pastor.
The next day. Yeah, that's good. You share what you know.
Yeah.
And it's a progressive knowledge thing. But I was blind, but now I can see.
Yep.
I was blind yesterday, and I can see today.
We're a new creature. I tell people 4 days after I got saved, I had iced tea with Doug Loman. And right after that, I started helping Doug with just ministry, and it was 2 years later when you asked me to do a Bible study.
Yeah.
So much happens in between there. So I don't think that, you guys out there just get in, dive in, jump in.
Yeah, for me, it was the day after, the day I got saved, I called all my family members crying, for one. But I was apologizing for the poor son, poor son, uncle, and just God showed me all the areas I had let myself down, honestly. And then the next day, my friends told me to go out to a party, and I said no. And saying no was my first ministry. They were like, "Why aren't you coming?" And I was like, "You guys,
Never thought of that.
I got saved." And did it change their lives? No, but I know God was already using me in that moment.
I agree. What do you think, Josh?
Well, I think we romanticize ministry. We romanticize, being used by God, and we think that we have to be the big voice, or we have to be somebody who's really used in a big way. And that might happen for some people, but really what it comes down to is as soon as you get saved, you start to serve. Yeah. And when you serve, God changes your heart and turns you into the person that he wants you to be, right? And that takes time. So being used right away, being effective, that might take time. Yeah. That might be a training. I mean, Paul, when he got saved, it was very dramatic. He met, Jesus, Lord met him on the Damascus Road. He became blind. He had to be healed from that. And then he disappears for a while. He disappears for years and then comes back and he's Paul, the Paul that we know. And so there was a special, ministry for Paul, and that took time to take. But I guarantee you, Paul started serving right away. Right?
You'd love to see that behind the scene, what happened in those years. But God was moving because that's how he moves in our life.
I heard there was a missionary that spoke one time, and he said that most people don't do anything because they can't do everything. Yeah. And that hit me so hard. And I thought, you know what? It's true. We want to come out and have this big bang and this big show and this big influence right away, but doing something always leads to something else. Yes. That's how you get to the place, right?
We're starting this on God stories. Well, I started out with a God story. I got saved, gave my life to the Lord in my bathroom, woke up the next morning, and I said, God, this is my first day of walking with you, and I'm discouraged. I need to be encouraged. Went to work, turned around, my pastor was there and said, I thought I should come by and encourage you. Well, right away, I started calling everybody and telling them, said, man, God's real. He's real. He's real. So it started out just like we're going to talk about today.
Exactly.
I love that. I love that. Well, we always start out with Justin's cue.
Yes. So I asked a question. It's going to be a little twist on it today. I like to ask our guests what's something that people may not know about you. It's
Or what's
entitled
new.
What's New.
Yeah.
So for you guys today, we've kind of hinted towards our audience, letting them know that we're going to announce some things today. So what's new going on in the Vietti's world? What do you guys have coming up that's exciting for our audience?
Yeah.
I'll let you start.
Well, you got a 2-hour program.
Vision coming.
As older I get, the more vision I get. And I like to do crazy things. And of course, I don't know what you're asking me right now, but we're going to do a podcast on God stories.
Yes.
My daughter called me a couple weeks ago and said, Dad, don't let these God stories die with you. And, you know, it's exciting. It's an adventure.
Yeah.
There are people that don't have the same view of God that we do. You know, I was just thinking the other day, the Church of Acts would have had a great podcast.
Oh, they had a great
and it would go right around the God stories.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a spirit of awe. Did you get that? The spirit of awe. And that means they were swapping God stories and going, oh. They had a spirit of awe. I mean, they cast demons out of people. They had anointed handkerchief stories. They drew lots. They prayed people out of jail. They spoke healing to people. And we're still in the Church of Acts,
Pastor, could you imagine there being that day for the son of Sceva when he tried to cast the demons out of the guys, and they said, "We know Jesus, we know Paul, but who are you guys?" That was a state of awe too, right? I mean, it's like, wow.
Valley Bible lives this same thing. We have a spirit of awe.
Yes.
I don't think we hardly ever get together in any kind of meeting, whether it be a staff meeting or whatever. And somebody will say, guess what happened to me today?
Yes.
I went to Walgreens, and guess what happened? I was praying for somebody, or I saw a homeless person. Guess what? And we're all, and that's our life.
Yes, it is. Well, isn't that, Pastor, because as a lot of people know your story, but a lot of our audience may not. I think some of your ministry started as you started mowing the lawn, doing youth group, but then you had the guts to go out and start a church. Yeah. And that wasn't normal back then, was it?
Well, I taught our guys in our last leadership discipleship. I said, I didn't go looking for ministry. Neither did Joseph, neither did Daniel, neither did Paul. God found them. Yeah. I was just so excited about God. I went down. My father-in-law was a pastor. He was a general contractor, also pastored a church. And I went down to help him, and I started mowing the lawn. I started driving the church bus, washing the vehicles. And then every Saturday, I don't know what got into me, I'd go door-to-door witnessing myself. Yeah. I just go out and knock people's doors down in Potomac area. That's a rough area. Ooh. And I would just knock on their door and say, hey, do you know Jesus? Do you need a Bible, anything? No one went with me. I just did it.
So you didn't start in a pulpit with thousands of followers? People listening.
I didn't want to be a pastor. I wanted to be an attorney. But lo and behold, I just got carried away with my excitement about Jesus and started doing a little Bible study. It got out of hand and turned into a church. Another church and another church.
Yes.
Yeah, I love it.
So,
as Josh, as your dad founded Valley Bible Fellowship, you founded Encourage Media Production. And you started out with this show.
Yeah. I mean, I consider it.
Oh, you had Rechurch for a while.
Well, there's been people. So here's the thing. So people think Josh always starts things and stops them, but what I do is
Who says that?
He always says that. But what I'm always doing is I'm always experimenting.
Should we put those two together? I don't know.
Yes. I'm always experimenting, and I'm always trying things that I wonder if they will work.
Yes.
And you find out new ways to spread the same message, right? There are people out there. I think of the story of leaving the 99. That's probably my theme story. There are people out there who wandered off somehow. Maybe they wandered off when they were young. Maybe they wandered off when they were older, and there may be a reason for that. They might have been offended. They might have lost hope. They might life might have happened to them, and they wander off, and they end up in the woods, and they end up in the thick brush out there. And what does Jesus say? He says, obviously, the shepherd is going to leave the 99 and go find that one. And when you leave the 99, right? You sometimes we think of that as an insult to the 99, like let's leave them behind. They don't need us, whatever. But it was really a compliment to the 99 because it was the shepherd. It looks at the 99 and says, "They're good.
Yeah.
They're okay. They're going to be just fine. They're doing what's right. So I'm going to leave them." And I'm going to go after the one. And that's been my mantra for a long time. And I think that if there's a way that we can do that, like right now, we're on video, we're on Facebook or on YouTube. If there's a way that we can reach some person that's out there, there's somebody probably out there right now that feels like they don't belong. They don't belong in the fold. They don't belong with the 99. But we're saying you do belong because God has called you by name, and God has he knew you before you were born. And we want to make sure that message gets out there. So I'm always experimenting in ways to reach the one.
Okay, now Rick Warren said something 20 years ago. I heard him say it. I thought it was interesting. He said, our church starts several, 8 or 9 new ministries every year, and we expect 5 of them to fail. Mm-hmm. We expect that, or 6. But we have to start the 9 to find out which ones are going to be successful. Yeah. And I think, again, our expectations equal our peace. If you come into a church knowing that at the outset, that we're going to try 6 new ministries this year, 4 are probably going to fail. We expect them to fail. Mm-hmm. But we're going to come up with 2 good, solid ministries. And I think that's what you're talking about.
We'll always be doing new things. I'll always be doing something new. And so around, I have quite a few irons in the fire right now. And, we'll see which ones are the most effective. And that's where we will probably spend more of our resources and time in the future. So.
And is it okay for some ministries to be for a season?
For sure.
Because if some person gets saved during that time, was it worth it? If you put all your resources, spent all your time, and only one person got saved.
Well, once the shepherd,
in my opinion, worth it.
Think about it this way. Once the shepherd goes out and finds the one and brings it back to the fold, does he keep going out? Mm-hmm. It depends, right? It depends
on the situation.
It depends on if there are more
more lost sheep.
And where do they go? Do you go to the same place? Maybe not, right?
And if you're fishing, you're casting different bait. You're looking in all the pods for
right.
New people.
As far as consistency goes, the consistency is in we will not stop trying.
Yes.
Amen.
We will always be reaching out.
Well, it's crazy. You go into the Vegas church, and I don't know if it's true yet today. I know it was a few years ago. But you see people serving that got won to the Lord at the porn convention.
Yes.
And I know that's kind of shocking to our audience here, but yes, we did.
Some people it is.
We did have a booth in the porn convention for 10 years.
Yes.
And there are people that came up to me over the years going, I just think that's wrong, and I can't believe you go in there. And I saw things on social media, Pastor Ron, these guys, they just want to get high on this stuff. And I go, don't judge me according to your standards.
Yes. Yeah.
We went in there with the right motives. For 10 years, we gave away Brian Wilson's book. We gave away Rick Warren's book, gave away my books. We gave away stuff on being a good father. We had a prayer board for everybody to sign up on that needed prayer. God led us in there. God told us to it. God told us to go in there. Yes. He told us.
And you guys developed an empathy for those people.
Oh, I would ask, there was only 2 guys and 3 women that served on the team. And I asked the guy, or sometimes 2 guys, I'd say, are you okay? I'm not tempted at all. I mean, 0. We went straight to our booth. We laid in our face. We prayed. And I will see people serving the Vegas church that got won to the Lord at the porn convention. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's where they found Jesus. Now, again, even with this God story thing, we're going to go into this. There's going to be people out there go, well, the Bible doctrines, there's a doctrine that says that miracles don't happen today. We're going to have those people.
Yes, we are.
They've got their verses. I got my verses to support that it does continue on, the book of Acts. And basically, and I say this in love, and I don't want to be a smart aleck, but I'll take my experiences with my verses to back them over your doctrine with your verses to back them. Yep. I'll take my experiences. And see, I can't see getting to heaven and God looking at me and saying, Ron, I wanted you to take me seriously, but not that seriously. You really took me seriously. I mean, for example, I was looking at this on the way down here today. In John 14, it says, do you believe that I'm in the Father in me? The words, the rhemas that I say to you, I don't speak on my own initiative, but the Father abiding in me does his works. Now I like this. It says, believe me that I'm in the Father. Believe me that the Father's in me. Otherwise, just believe on account of the works alone. Mm. And then he says, truly, truly, I say to you, he who believes in me, the works that I do, he shall do also, and greater works than these shall he do, because I go to the Father. I am right here. So I get to heaven, I can't see God saying, Ron, I wanted you to believe in me, but not that much. You took me literally. Yeah, I do. The same works you did, I'm going to do them. We are doing them. And these experiences have lasted over 50 years.
And what is so cool, and to talk to the audience, the idea that we have, Encourage Media, we're launching a new internet show. Be called God Stories. And we haven't decided what night, though, but we did decide September, didn't we, Pastor?
We did.
That's the big announcement. We got a new internet show that we're going to be doing, and we're going to be presenting to audiences. And I think that's the excitement I get out of you birthing Encourage Media. You know, we've got now 2 shows that were under the flying of that flag, and you're thinking about doing another one.
Yeah, we're going to start our My Ethos back up in October and talk about creativity. And the word that kind of hits me hard biblically, because you don't see creativity in the Bible necessarily a lot, but you see the word cultivating. When God put Adam and Eve in the garden, he told them to work and cultivate, the garden. And I think that God gives us so much. We are such a rich culture right now. I know we worry about the future. We worry about things happening, but we're such a rich culture, and we have so many resources. We have cameras are cheaper than ever. The ability to speak to anyone and everyone where they're at is just mind blowing. And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about creativity and maybe some tech stuff, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So.
Helping others, and I think that's the big thing, is giving resource. I'm so excited to be part of Pastor Ron's new show, because we're going to have a set. We're going to be doing it here at the Northwest, and it's going to be impactful, because as we've talked about this, and Pastor, we're going to actually have 2 other people that are going to help us investigate the stories, right, Pastor?
We're going to have, well, you told me, we're going to have a doctor.
Yes.
We're going to have a judge.
Yes.
We're going to have an attorney.
Yep.
We're going to have a politician.
An educator.
An educator, and all these people, what we're going to do.
Somebody who has a degree in theology.
A degree in theology, a master's degree in theology.
Right.
What we're going to do, and we're not just going to tell my God stories, we'll include other people's too. But I have a book I'm writing with 100 God stories. And I mean, they're phenomenal. I can't even wrap my mind around these stories yet today. Yes. They're so phenomenal. But yet you look at society, they're reaching out. I mean, Netflix. We have Walking Dead. We have A Haunted Latin America, The Haunting of Hill House, Zombie, Z Nation, Paranormal Investigation, The Influence, Pretty Things That Live in the House, Family Blood, Eerie. I mean, society's infatuated with this fictional stuff. We have the real thing.
Yeah.
You know, even the Bible says if you cast out demons by the power of God, you know the kingdom of God has rested upon you. And
we
I
have
know
those stories.
We have them all. We have.
do.
I mean, these stories are going to be crazy. And what I want to do, I've wanted to do for a long time. I'm going to present some of my God stories. There'll be other God stories. And then I want people to critique them.
Yeah.
And we told one today. Can I?
I think we should tell one,
I'm going to tell
Pastor.
one. I'm going to tell one. We might start out with this one. I don't know. Is it all right if I tell
of course,
one?
yeah.
Hey, this is what we're about.
Now, this is one of the lighter ones. Now, hear me. This is one of the lighter stories.
And you know what? Even the audience probably will participate in some way.
We got a lot more dramatic stories than this. But Tom, you were with us, so you can give verification to this. I think Josh might have been with us. Were you with us in this Mulahey trip?
Oh, I love the Mulahey trips.
On some trips.
We were down in Mexico. I'll make a long story short, because I don't like long, drawn-out stories.
I think I know where you're going. I think I know where you're going. It's cool.
We were down in Mulahey, and we brought down 4 or 5 video cassette recorders.
5.
And we had a lot of our sermons interpreted. They were in English. And so we went around to different little villages or places where we thought
they were doing Bible studies.
They were doing Bible studies. So we gave them a cassette recorder. And we said, we're going to send you tapes every week, and you can be part of our church. We're going to teach you the gospel. So we went around. I didn't know we'd given them all out. We went to this last little village, and I got real enthused with some of their testimonies. Mm-hmm. They were praying people. They loved
in
God.
Yes.
And I looked at you guys and I said, let's get a video cassette recorder. One goes here. And you guys came back and said, we're out of them. We gave them all away. Anymore. And I said, then, well, doggone, we'll just have to go get one. Because I know God just told me we've got a video cassette recorder.
Hey, you know what's because now this is me, and we were at a men's retreat this weekend, and I shared people I have a gift of administration, so I immediately went to figure out how we're going to do this. And in my mind, he's saying we're going to do it, and I'm like, fat chance.
I know. Well,
just by spinning, but Pastor Ron's like, God is going to do this.
I heard God talk to me.
You're in a village in Mexico, Mulegé, and there's not a lot. There's no Costco, Walmart, Best Buy, none of that.
Well, the first thing the people said to me, said, Pastor Ron, there's no video recorders in Mulegé. No, you won't find any here. But I didn't take no for an answer.
No,
I said,
you didn't.
doggone, there is one here, because God told me it's got to be here. So we're going to go find it. So
First thing, get in the car.
we joined hands and prayed first.
We did.
We jumped in the car, and so there was 2 or 3 cars, and we had walkie-talkies.
Yep.
And so we were going downtown. I think it was a Saturday morning, very crowded.
It was.
Very crowded. And so we were talking, and I said, I'll tell you what, let's do. God knows there's a video cassette recorder somewhere in Mulegé. So right now we're going to pray. God, give us a parking place right where there's a video cassette recorder. In Jesus' name, amen. What a simple prayer. Yeah. And so we drove around another block, and right away I saw a parking place right directly in front of the grocery store, right in front of the grocery store. So I wheeled in. Some of the other cars, you were with me, they parked down the street. And so we got out. We said, okay, we got to go find the video cassette recorder. So we started walking. Tom, we walked 3 blocks.
Well, and it was funny, too, because it was actually siesta time, remember?
Yes.
So we were knocking on doors to get them to open up their shops. So, but we, when you think about this, and I'm thinking about it right now, Pastor, we walked the opposite direction.
Yes, we did.
And we covered blocks. Shops.
Sweating, hot.
We did. We walked for probably an hour, asking people, and they're just...
And they all said, no video cassette recorders in Mulegé. No, Mulegé.
You won't find one.
And so we go back to the car discouraged, and one of the guys said, Pastor Ron, you prayed. Find us a parking place right in front of where there's a cassette recorder. I said, it's a grocery store, guys. Okay, let's go in.
Yep, that was exactly it.
And we walked around. And we asked the lady on the way in, so you have a video cassette recorder. She says, no, it's a grocery store.
She said, there's no way we have one of those.
We walked around the toy department, and there sits a video cassette recorder.
On the shelf.
On the shelf. Not even out of the box. Same kind we brought.
Same exact kind we brought. Not different, same brand. Because remember the guy, when we took it up the register, he goes, I didn't know what to charge you. I go, I can tell you what I paid for it in America.
And so we paid for it. We went and put it in. Now, here's the thing I want to critique.
No, this is the way this show's going to run.
Somebody will say, rightfully so, well, Pastor Ron, it's probably pretty logical that somebody you gave a recorder to earlier came down and traded it in and got some money out of it. Logical.
And that's what we want to do. We want to investigate the story.
Yeah, but here's the thing. How did we know to park right in front of the grocery store where it was at? We prayed, God, park us where. We never would have found it without praying that prayer and parking directly, in the middle of the grocery store.
Yeah. And when you do that, because you could come back to investigate the story deeper and say, well, somebody could just put it up there, but I go, why would you put a recorder in a grocery store? And then when you walk in there, the owner and the clerks would have obviously known, we just had one come in.
Yeah, they wouldn't know that.
So I'm just saying, so this is where we want the story to go.
The miracle part is parking in front of the grocery store.
Yes.
That was the miracle part. But this is probably not as big of a miracle or God story as the other ones we're going to be sharing, but it's pretty big.
You know how it strikes me too, because I could see, because I remember it was a family, and they wanted to participate in what God was doing. Yes. They said, we heard you guys were having Bible studies. We would like to have one, and we're like, we'd love you to have one. We don't have a player. And Pastor Ron's like, well, we're going to get one. So right there is when things start to moving, I believe, and God starts to make a way, because these people had a desire to serve him.
They did. It was a need.
It was a
Paul's
need.
promise said God would supply all of our needs.
Yes, and it wasn't for their benefit. They were wanting to do it for the people that lived around them.
Yeah.
And so to me, when you present these God stories in our new video, our new internet show, is to encourage people out there.
Yes.
Because you can walk the very same way. And I do believe, like you said, Pastor, people are having these encounters.
Well, Tom, you know what you said, people can walk this way. Josh, you might want to answer this. Pastor Jim Cruz the other day, we were talking, and my grandson Josiah says, Papa, I think I'm going to follow in your footsteps with the God stories. Would you mentor me? And I said, I'd love to. And me and Jim was talking. Jim said, I think you just have the gift of miracles. And I'm in between these two thoughts, Josh. Some people are given gift of miracles, some gift of helps. Everybody has different gifts. Or could it be, on the other hand, that everybody can do these kinds of things? I've said before, and I'll say it again, when God looked down for somebody to fulfill the ministry he's given me, he didn't look down like, here's Pastor Ron Vietti, or here's Ron Vietti. I wasn't pastor then, but he said, here's Ron Vietti, and he's more intelligent than other people, because I'm not. Or here's a guy that's more charismatic. No, I'm not. He's got good looks. I'm not good looking at all. I didn't even shave today. I think he looked down one day and said, I need a little bit of crazy, and he'll do. He's crazy. I mean, we go out and lay hands on buildings. We get them. We go pray for a dead seal on the beach, and it's alive. I mean, and I'll explain, I wasn't really dead, but he's close to it. But I'm saying, is it some people just have the gift of miracles, like Charlie Garcia, or is it that we just have to be a little crazy? If anybody's crazy enough to do those things, they're all going to have those stories. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think, Josh?
Well, the best understanding I have is we have people that work for us, right? And the best employees are the employees that if you ask them to get something done, they get it done, right? And they may have quirks, they may have attitude issues and with other people or something, but if they get it done, they get it done, right? And we appreciate that. And we tend to know who we can trust more to get something done, so we end up going to them more. They end up getting more responsibilities, which ends up in a raise and a better position and all that stuff, right? So I think about things in those terms when it comes to God. When God looks down, he doesn't look down and see a bunch of perfect people. He sees a bunch of flawed people. Everyone's flawed. But some people are willing to do what he says to do. Some people are willing to obey, and many aren't. And so I'm not saying that we always obey God, but we try, right? We try to do that. That's the one thing that we try to do. We were talking about the pulpit the other day, and I said, Dad, I don't think that God chose us because we're perfect. We were laughing about our imperfections, really. And I said, but I think that he chose us because we're willing to do what he asks us to do.
Amen.
And so every time I'm at the pulpit, every time I'm in front of a camera, every time I'm speaking to someone individually from the church, I can't say that I always do this in my personal life, but every time I feel like I have a mission at hand, I always ask God, always, what do you want? What do you want to say? What do you want to communicate? And so so people, what happens is people hear God through us, and it's no coincidence. It's not because of us. It's because we've asked God to speak through us, and he does.
I'll never forget this, and Pastor, you'll remember this one, as I'm thinking about the show that we're going to have and how Pastor is saying, we're going to be talking about the God stories he's had, because he's had 50 years in the ministry to have these, and we're going to investigate him on there. But you remember when Tessa fractured her skull? My daughter fractured her skull at a local place here in Bakersfield, picked her up and ran to the hospital. When we got in the hospital, I told my wife I needed to call my dad. And my dad had been dead for, 2 or 3 years. And so Tiffany goes, what's going to happen now? I go, I need to call Pastor Ron. So Pastor Ron, right after I said that, called and said, I heard what happened to Tessa. And so my wife's standing there, Tessa's on the bed, and Pastor Ron said, I'm not going to keep you on the phone, but I'm going to pray that the nurses help Tom. So as we were going through the night, my daughter's skull was fractured, and she had to have plastic surgery the next day. But as my wife and I were there, we were worried about having it done in the emergency room, because they said she needed some facial plastic surgery. The nurses came out, and one of the nurses, after the doctor came back in, goes, well, we better get to this, said, no, I think we have another plan. He goes, who made this plan up? They go, we did, as nurses. And they had already called another plastic surgeon, Dr. Shaw, amazing person in town. He's still out there practicing. And he had scheduled Tessa the next day. So as I'm out there, I'm not telling the nurses these stories. Pastor Ron prayed on the phone. I did tell Tiffany, I go, Pastor Ron prayed that the nurses would help us. We never said, hey, nurses, help us. But they scheduled for my daughter to have plastic surgery the next day without even telling the doctor. They already saw it. It was on the board, called him, put Tessa first. How do you explain that? Well, as I explained it, I had a need. And I was willing to let God move. Pastor called me and prayed, let the nurses help. And I think God started orchestrating those things, because it actually even happened through one of the nurses that probably was more unlikely to move through it. And it was just so cool, because there was a need. And I wasn't saying, I'm in the middle of a God moment. But sometimes you are in the middle of a God moment.
We're a lot of people, when I talk about God stories, a few years ago I was talking to a very influential man in a very influential position. He had a lot of people under him. And they were giving me the idea that they didn't like my God stories. It was in a Christian conference. and that it was too much for them. And they weren't real happy with my God stories. Well, that night, this president guy called me to his office. He started telling me, he said, I've got a bunch of God stories, want to hear them? But he was keeping them quiet. You don't know how many people who come to me and say, I've got God stories, but I've been embarrassed to tell them.
Yeah.
And we're not embarrassed to tell them because this is our lifestyle.
Well, I think some people see it as arrogance on our part, but I think it's arrogant to say that God's not going to speak to you. Yeah. I think it's arrogant to say that I've got a better idea.
Because it's always different, too.
Right? There's a difference.
We all hear God in a different method or way, but the outcome is leading to the same thing.
Yeah, the old boy that said, I was blind, but now I can see. He wasn't arrogant. He was just excited.
Yeah. Right.
And it says to boast in the Lord, and hopefully we're boasting in Him.
Yeah. And we're supposed to come to the Lord like children, right? With that mindset. And children, I know my children, they're little. You know, I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and they, you know, like you have small children as well. They expect us to take care of them, right?
All the time.
It's not like, and I don't think you arrogant little kids. What are you thinking?
No,
of course not. Of course, I want them to believe that I'm going to take care of them, right?
Josh,
and I think God's the same way with us.
And all the boasting is never about, when we share a God story, it's never about us.
Oh, no.
It never ends with, I'm a cool person. It ends with, do you see what God did? Do you understand
it's so
how real
crazy.
it is?
Tessa was 3. I still remember that story and how clearly it was when I saw my cell phone ring and it was Pastor Ron. I mean, so those are the things that stick, and I think as you see them, you can build on them. If you're out in the audience right now, you can use those to build on. I'll never forget Taylor, when she was about 4. I was walking up my stairs, and I got to the 4th rung of the 4th stair to the top. She looked, she goes, Dad, and she leaped at me, and I grabbed her, and I was like, Taylor, don't do that. She goes, why? You weren't going to catch me?
Yeah, there you go.
I had to think, she was like, there's no problem with that.
My kids do that all the time.
I was just afraid I was going to fall back and
they'll kamikaze themselves into us.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, that was her question. Well, you weren't going to catch me?
Right.
So it's like asking God, you aren't going to answer me?
Yeah.
So
it brings me back even the cassette story, the truth in the biblical definition of faith, of the assurance of things hoped for. I think so many of us miss it, and we get a little spark of faith, and we can be told, like Pastor Ron was told, there's a cassette here.
Yes.
You're going to find it. And we go, okay, God said there's a cassette. And you just sit there and wait for it to pop up, like just out of nowhere, instead of acting and going in faith and searching and pursuing, because I know that God told me there's one here. Or sometimes you have to move.
Or park in front of where it was and go the opposite direction.
Yes.
I had a book that had a bullet point that says, basically, where's Elijah at? I think was the title of the book or something like that. Mm-hmm. And the basic idea was we're waiting on God. God's waiting on us. Mm-hmm. Holy Spirit's our helper, not our doer.
Amen.
He's our helper. And as we step out, He will help us. Again, we've got to take the words of Jesus. Truly, truly, this is a double truly. I say to you, he who believes in me, the works that I do, he shall do also. Yeah. I mean, how do we get around that? And there's many more verses. And so,
you and I were just talking the other day about the centurion. We asked Jesus to use the Jewish leaders who gave reference to the guy, saying he's a really great guy, and his slave was ill. And he said, would you come heal? Before Jesus gets there, another person comes and says, my master's like, he's not worthy to have you come in the house. If you just say it, it will happen. He was believing that if Jesus did it, and Jesus is like, I've never seen this faith in all Jerusalem.
What was he saying, though? And I know that's debate. He says, in this one story, he says, you know what? He says, I have men under me, and I tell them do this, 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 and they do it. And that was the context. And I know you have under you. Yeah. You don't have to come to my house because you got these other servants that will do this stuff. Mm-hmm. Was that referring to angels? What was that referring to? I don't know. But Jesus got pretty excited when he heard this guy's faith. He knows how the kingdom works.
And that's a God story.
That's a God story.
Yep.
James, I just finished this Bible study in James on Wednesday nights, and one of the last verses that we talked about was this. You mentioned Elijah about this, about his prayers. It says the prayer of a righteous person accomplishes much, right? And it says Elijah was a man with a nature like ours, and he prayed fervently that it might not rain. And for 3 years and 6 months, it did not rain on earth. Then he prayed again, and heaven gave rain, and the earth bore its fruit. And the whole purpose behind praying that it wouldn't rain and then praying that it would rain was to get people to turn around, right? To turn to God. And I think that when your intentions are right, I think that, of course, God's going to answer your prayers. When you really want, more than anything, for people to just, their hearts to be turned to God, which is our heart, that's what we want.
But Josh, go back again, and we've talked about that story many times. He prayed once, he went and looked, nothing. Prayed twice, went and looked, nothing. Prayed again, went and looked, nothing. Prayed again, went and looked, nothing. How many people would keep doing that?
Well, he had prayed that it wouldn't rain, right? And it didn't rain. So he knew God was going to come through. He knew God was going to come through on it raining again. He knew it wasn't a coincidence. He had the experience, like you're talking about. He had the years of experience behind him of God coming through over and over and over. And I think that when you live like that, you just get to a place where you expect, and you
How many times do you think he would have prayed?
He's going to. I probably
80, 90. I mean, he knew that this was going to happen because he had faith in his heart. Faith is a substance.
Yeah.
Faith comes from hearing a rhema from God. Mm-hmm. It's a substance. That substance, motivates you. But I'm saying, how many Christians would pray twice and stop?
Yeah.
I don't know how many times
Or
I've told
4 or 5
God.
times and stop.
I've told God many times. I said, God, look, I believe this is according to your will. And I will let you know, I'm not going to stop praying. I will not stop until it happens. I will let you know, I'm not stopping. And I've got a lot of God stories resulting from that.
Well, I think that's the whole excitement about launching this new show.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Yeah. I'm excited to have this conversation. So, Pastor, we just had the first show right now.
Basically. I've always taken the train on the tracks and God will move it.
I love it. So you guys got to see kind of our idea or our thought about this new God Story show. I'm so excited about it because it's here to encourage you guys to step out and to start moving in that. And when you hear them from the pulpit, but you may not get the full back scene. That's what I love about the show that we're going to bring.
And this thing just can carry so far. What do we hope to do with this show? We want people to see God in a whole different way.
Yeah.
And we want to build a spirit of adventure and hope in people's lives, and even prove that heaven's real. You say, what? I know that when I die, I'm going immediately to heaven. Why? Yeah. The same God that gave me all these God stories is the same one that talked about heaven. Mm-hmm. And he pulled all these God stories off. I mean, I know he's real, not a doubt about it. So everything he said in here is real. And so it can just do so much for your walk with the Lord if you choose to see this word in a whole different way.
Yeah. It's the exciting life. It's that Zoe life, that complete life, not only physically but spiritually, and it's seeing God move. And that's what excites me about my relationship with Christ. I've said it a lot on this show from the pulpit, that I can't talk about something I don't believe in. And I believe in Christianity.
Isn't it wonderful to wake up every morning going, what's God going to do today?
Yes.
Well, we talk about purpose a lot, right? We talk about our own purpose, and that's good, but when we align our lives with his purpose, right? Yes. That's when things really happen.
He supports that.
Right. I mean,
how many non-believing believers do we have around us? God gave me that phrase, and I don't say it to condemn you. I say it kind of joking, kind of humorously in a way, but we say we believe in prayer, and if we don't pray over 3 minutes a day, we don't believe in prayer. Mm-hmm. We say we believe in the Holy Spirit, but if we don't ask for his help 3 or 4, we don't believe in the Holy Spirit. We say we believe in demons. We never take authority over them. And I don't say that. I don't want to condemn anybody, but it's just kind of something we need to look at.
Yeah. You want to encourage people to continue to look at that.
Well, it's not condemnation. It's a reminder, right?
It's just a reminder.
And that's what it comes down to. Like the other day, I was talking to my friend Adrian about something, and he said, "Have you prayed hard over it?" And I said, no, and I should know these things.
Josh.
I should know these things. I do know these things, and it's just a reminder. It was a reminder of of course I need to pray hard about it.
We have to live this out, and I know we all, we kind of go in and out. I said before, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. Do we exemplify that 24/7? No, we go in and out. Yeah. We're in the flesh some, then we get in the Spirit and we have it. We go, and our goal is to be in the Spirit more than we're in the flesh. Amen. But if you're not exemplifying love, joy, peace, patience, then obviously you're not in the Spirit at that moment.
Well, I was talking to Tom before the show because he's our health guru, and I was talking about how I'm out of shape right now. I'm out of shape. Why am I out of shape? because I haven't been eating right, because I haven't been exercising regularly. And so I acknowledge that. So what am I going to do now? Hopefully, my plan, Lord be willing, right?
Yes.
As Grandpa said, is that I'm going to eat better and get in shape. That's the idea. And it's just the same spiritually. There's no difference, right?
And don't those two things go together, body, soul, spirit?
No, they do. Yeah.
And as you know, you talk about that, it's the same principle, getting up daily and doing it.
It's discipline.
Eating right.
Yeah.
And as I said a few Sundays ago, there's a lot of people who don't have a sin problem, they have an abiding problem. The Bible says if I abide in you and you abide in me, you will bear much fruit. It doesn't say you might, you possibly can.
And how do
You'll be bearing fruit.
Let me ask you this, how do you abide? What's the simple way for the simple instruction for
Get
people?
a pencil and piece of paper out.
Yeah.
Audience.
Yeah, abiding is a constant awareness that you're in Christ. It's a constant being in his presence, whether that is listening to praise music, whether that's meditating the word, whether that's praying. It's just basically a knowledge of the fact that he's with you. And of course, living that in holiness too.
So I've been thinking about this a lot lately. What do you do when you don't want to do it, right? And I think you mentioned music, and I think that that's one way for me that it changes my mindset. When I listen to the right music and I listen and I kind of get into that zone, it changes my mindset. What do you guys do to change your mindset when you don't feel like it?
And we're not legalistic at all. Yesterday morning, I was driving, and I spent 30 minutes listening to the 60s. And you say, was that God's will? Yes, it was. I thought about all our dating days, the first time I held my wife's hand. I thought about how lucky I was to get her. And so as I listened to these oldies, it brought back all these memories. And I went home and I was just madly in love again. Was that good? Yeah, that was good. So we're not legalistic. And we want to even maybe talk at some time the difference between legalism and holiness. There's a fine line between the two.
Yeah.
And so I guess I can talk all day, guys. And I did have caffeine this morning. I did think I
A little bit.
I did.
Well, to me, Josh, and I'll answer that question, and Justin, is I've got to get into the Word. Now, my method, the book right behind you, Fire Starters, is my go-to in the morning. It's my go-to, and it reads my mail. And then after that, it springboards me to my journaling and my devotion, but I've got to get something to like springboard me in, and that is it. So I always tell people, find something, when people think, oh, I got to read a chapter in the Bible, not necessarily so. Pastor showed me that, is you got to get something you can practically live, and just give me into the day. And the guys that do Bible study with me know I'm always looking for one thing to write down and say, that's it.
All right, Tom, I'm going to do something real quick.
If you want a copy of Fire Starters, you can get it.
Well, here we go. Tom, the first person that is listening to this that comes to Northwest this Sunday and asks you for a fire starter,
they get one.
You give it to them, okay?
You know what? I up that. Let me see it.
Open it.
First 5 people get one.
Five
Okay.
people. All right.
And the first 5 people, the east side gets one too. First 5 people, Tehachapi gets one.
I like it.
Well, we gotta
On
make
other
sure
campuses.
Now we
Let's
just have
go.
to make sure we have them on hand, so we will. I was like, I know we have one, but all right,
There's
we'll
2
do
more
it.
back there too.
Okay, all right, cool. So we'll make sure.
I love it. So this is the idea. We have fun doing these. We hope you enjoy them. Josh, thank you for being here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Josh,
Love it.
well, first of all, Pastor Ron, thank you for stepping out on what God told you and starting the church 48 years ago. Josh, thank you for stepping out and starting this Encourage Media.
Yeah.
We're able to have a different medium to get out
Yes.
and speak to the audience, like you said, that may be out there and not coming into a church. So I want to thank both of you for that. Anything that you want to leave the audience on, Pastor or Josh?
Josh, you first.
Because there again, we're going to be keep listening, because we're going to launch the show in September, and Pastor will figure out the date. And,
I'll leave you guys with this. One of my biggest issues in the past 20 years of doing this has been that I've overthought things. I overcomplicate things, especially when it comes to God's will. And I think it's much simpler. James says that you will know the right thing to do in the moment. Just do it. Just do the right thing. You'll know what to do. And so don't overcomplicate things. Just do what you know you believe is right, and everything's going to work out. It just is. And that's my best.
As far as being a pastor, probably the thing that inspired me the most was when someone once said, just get on fire for God and people will come and watch you burn.
I love that one.
And that's what I do.
good.
Just get on fire for God and they'll come and watch you burn.
Singular focus, right? A single focus.
Single focus. I'm the guy. I'm the guy. I was blind and now I see.
That was me, Pastor. I was screwed up. I just didn't know how to get unscrewed up. I always tell people that. Tommy, no one had to tell me, Tom, you got some problems. I knew I had problems. How do I get untangled?
I hope that this show will be contagious.
Yes. Yeah.
That people will watch it and go, wow. I had a friend of mine, Dwayne Johnson, one of my best friends back in Colorado. I went back to Pioneer Church back there, and he was at one of the first services. He had stopped going to church, and his wife showed him an ad in the paper, and I was quite a bit younger, and said, this old surfer dude's coming to Colorado. She said, would you go to church with me? And he said, I'll go see what this old surfer dude has to say. And so he went that night, and I just was on fire for God, and I was burning. And he told me later, he said, I went home, and I told my wife, I'm not sure that I agree with everything that guy said. But you know what? He's got me looking in my Bible like I've never looked before, man. I'm looking for answers because he was on fire. Yeah. And that's what I'm hoping, that this show is contagious. Yeah. And people go, maybe I'm missing something in my Christianity.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to be God's Stories. We're going to drop it in September. And next week we have a local attorney, David Torres.
Yes.
David will be here. And we want to again thank Vince Sierra for being here today, Seth Parker, and Mike Harvey, and Taylor and Tessa for
and our audience. Thanks, guys, for coming.
Yeah, we got Eric back there. First time we got to meet Eric. We have a live audience. You guys are welcome to come down. Phil, Keith, and
come to church Sunday.
Yeah.
I got a great message I'm burning with for Sunday. And so if you don't have a church, if you have a church, be faithful there. But if you don't, we'd love you to come.
And Josh, tell us today where you are on Sunday.
Oh,
I'll be in Caliente.
Yeah.
Caliente. I'll be at Twin Oaks Community Church.
Yeah.
And so if you guys are in the area and you want to, I think it's a cowboy church. So I don't know. I need to wear my cowboy hat, maybe get my Western shirt on.
And you and I will be
excited.
in Vegas preaching next Sunday.
Yeah. So there again, audience, we love to have you. If you have any questions for us, Pastor Tom at vbf.org.
Jay Greer, vbf.org.
jvietti@me.com. That's my email. I didn't know we were doing emails. Caliente, though, if you really are in the area, 11 a.m. Twin Oaks
Or if you
Church,
know somebody in the area,
it'll be fun.
have them come up there because.
So I'll be speaking there, and then you'll be here in Bakersfield.
I'll be here
at the main campus.
Pastor Ron at vbf.org.
And Pastor Tom will be here in Northwest.
Yes, I'll be here at Northwest. So
J2, you'll be at East Side, right? So
you did a
come
great
check us
job
out.
last night,
Please
Wednesday
talk to us.
night. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you guys for tuning in
God
today.
bless you guys.
This was Lunch
God
Break.
bless.
See you guys later.
I'm hungry.